Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some gadgets in the game right now which just haven't had any love for a long time. We're going to be suggesting some buffs to them because, you know, in a future update, hopefully this one, a lot of gadgets and star powers should receive a lot of love because there's just so many forgotten ones. So before we jump into it then, make sure you're using the creator code. That'd be greatly appreciated. And without further ado, let's hop into it. So the first gadget that desperately needs a buff is fast forward with Shelly. So fast forward is just such a slow dash. You compare it to Max's gadget where you get invincibility and a much faster dash. So I think it's pretty straightforward. Either make it so there's some invincibility whilst dashing or a faster dash. Next up we have Nita's gadget called Bear Paws. Bear Paws right now, upon activation, it actually takes a second for the stun to actually land. I think they should change this to 0.5 seconds just because it's really hard to actually hit stun on a good opponent that knows and sees that gadget pop up. Hopefully they can change this so at least Bruce can get a little bit of damage on them. So next up on the buff list we have Ball's gadget called T-Bone Injector. So Stomper is by far the better gadget, so hopefully some love to this gadget should be pretty appreciated, and especially because Bull is just terrible as well. Hopefully they can change it so it's instead of 1500 healing, it's 2000 healing, just so Bull can survive a little bit longer and especially get more damage onto the safe. Next up on the buff list we have Dynamite's gadget Fidget Spinners. So as you guys know, Fidget Spinner is one of the worst gadgets in the game. It's actually one of the most fun gadgets in the sense that it just looks completely stupid, but it's pretty simple. I think in terms of buff, I think we should actually make it so the speed boost should actually last a couple of seconds after the gadget, maybe just because of course Dynamite's countered quite easily by tanks, so at least this extra speed might make it a little bit easier to get away from those aggro brawlers like Mortis. Next up on my buff wish list we have Mind Mania. So Mind Mania, I don't think it's actually going to receive a buff just because it's actually used a lot by those dumb randoms, but I think there should be like a change of pattern just so, especially in the middle, maybe one mine actually hits, so that could be a nice welcome buff to Mind Mania. Next up we have Rico's gadget Multiple Launchers. So this gadget has been terrible for a long time. I think it's pretty easy to buff it. Just simply make it so there's more waves of shots coming out. So at the minute there's only 2 waves of his multiple launcher. It should probably be 3 or 4 just so there's a lot more damage potential with this gadget. Next up we have Penny's gadget called Trusty Spyglass. So to be honest, I completely forgot about this gadget. It's just never used whatsoever. It's really satisfying in the training cave, but in reality it really does nothing in open play. So I think you should just remake this gadget to maybe something so it like doubles the reload speed of the turret for like 5 seconds or 10 seconds. I think that would be a really good gadget and can definitely contend with Salty Barrel. Next up we have Carl's gadget called Heat Ejector. So nothing's going to ever beat the Flying Hook gadget unfortunately, but this gadget still deserves a little bit of love. So instead of 1200 damage, I think 1500 damage should be a sufficient buff to make it a little bit more viable. Next up we have Soul Switchers. So right now Ghost loses 15% of his health to actually just shoot out one ghost. So the other gadget's just way better and it's just never good to actually lose health with a gadget. So I think they should just make it so it's like 5% of your health and then you get a full ghost, so at least you get a lot of value with this gadget, because still I couldn't see a reason why you'd use this one over Cookie Poppers. Next up we have BB's gadget called Extra Sticky. So I think this gadget definitely has potential to be really strong, but it only lasts 2 seconds right now. The slowing effect only 2 seconds, so this should be buffed around 3 to 4 seconds and then you might finally see some usage out of this gadget. Next up we have Griff's gadget Coin Shower. So it increases the amount of coins in a shot 33%, which seems good, but the other gadget's just way better. I'd actually like to see, I don't know if it's possible, but there's a radius of the main attack increased as well, just because it's just so hard to hit Griff's main attack sometimes and you might just completely waste this gadget. So an increase in radius and increase in coins might actually be a pretty decent gadget. Next up we have Crash Test. So in the smaller form she does a little dash, but that dash is just so small, so I'd like it to be a much longer dash because you just get no value out of it and then you get a knockback as well, so at least you could get some really good value and insane clips with this gadget if the radius of the dash is actually increased. Next up we have Max's gadget Sneaky Sneakers. So this gadget has been one of the worst gadgets for a long time. I think there's multiple ways you can improve this, so I actually think increasing the time might be pretty good for it, but I would actually like to see like maybe a speed boost, just because 3 seconds is a short time, so maybe the speed boost will allow you to get some really good damage in. Next up we have Mr. P's gadget. So I hope either of his gadgets get buffed because both for me are just pretty terrible, but I'd like to see Porter Reinforcements buffed a little bit. 1000 HP on a Porter is just nothing. So many brawlers can just one-shot it. Maybe to around 1200 HP. It's only a small buff, but it's definitely welcomed. Next we have Spike's gadget called Popping Pincushion. So this gadget can get a lot of damage on a stationary target. It's very rare at the high levels you're going to get any damage onto an opponent, but on a high safe you got to deal some insane damage. But I think the buff which they should go down is maybe with Curveball, the spikes actually curved with this gadget. That would be pretty interesting, and at least you'll be able to hit a bit more few of your shots with this gadget. Next we have Sleep Simulator. So Sandy falls asleep for 2 seconds and regenerates all of the missing HP, which is pretty good, but just staying still for 2 seconds isn't good. So maybe like 1.5 seconds, just so it's not too broken, because you got to think, if you make this gadget to be like literally 1 second or 0.5 seconds, people can just abuse it too quickly in like Showdown, for example. So this gadget definitely has potential, but needs a smaller time frame. So there's no secret that Dancing Flames with Amber is just a terrible gadget. So you don't want to make it too toxic, because it reminds me of the Bee Rattled Hive gadget when that used to be really OP. I think just maybe some small adjustments, maybe a little bit of an increased radius, maybe just more flames, maybe a little bit more damage. One of either of them, not both of them, should be a sufficient, at least a little bit of a buff, just so it's not too toxic. So next we have Meg's Toolbox. So this gadget sometimes has its usage, but the radius is just way too small. You think of like Bo's Totem, for example, his new one, the radius is massive. So I think it drastically needs a huge radius buff, and then it can actually be somewhat usable. So next up we actually have a nerf. So I think Power Shield is just way too strong. I tried not to go for the nerfs, but getting all of your ammo back basically, and plus an 80% shield, it's just way too much and can just make you so tanky, and it's ridiculous. So I think definitely a nerf to either the shield to like 70%, or maybe just reduce it to even less ammo. This gadget definitely needs a nerf. It's way too strong. So next we have Colette's first gadget. So this gadget just has no use at the moment. I would like for it to at least get a small damage buff, because the second gadget is just way better. Maybe like a couple of 100 extra damage might be at least the tipping point. So maybe if you face a more, I don't know, squishier brawler, then this gadget might actually be the better choice. Ashley's second gadget, Rotten Banana, has just been rotten for too long now. It used to be literally the best gadget in the game, but I think we should buff it a little bit, just because the 40% health decrease it's just way too much, especially for a tanky brawler. I think something along the lines of 20 to 30%, and then maybe like a 33% increase in your rage might actually make it so it's a little bit viable. Next up, we have Fang's gadget called Corn Fu. So this gadget seems okay, but in reality doesn't really get much damage on the opponent. So I think a damage buff is definitely sufficient, because again, the stun gadget is just one of the best gadgets in the game, so it's pretty hard to even consider using this, but then it's just terrible anyways. So maybe like 750 damage should be at least viable for this gadget. So next up we have Eve's gadget called Motherly Love. So this gadget, you can actually get a lot of healing, but in reality it's really awkward. A lot of time you actually just want this where you want the hatchlings to be attacking the opponent rather than healing you up, and it's a little bit situational. Like sometimes you want to be able to switch between attacking and healing, but you can only press the healing before the hatchlings actually come out. I'd actually like this, so once they actually do come out of its hatchling or whatever, out of its egg, then it can actually turn into either an attacking or an healing. I think that'd be a really nice change. And lastly, we have Artie's first gadget, which is actually the worst gadget in the game by far. I think in the line should be changed, so maybe that you can actually move your legs for around 5 seconds, so then you can actually get that increased double damage. I think that'd be pretty cool, because again, like your legs might be in a really awkward situation, so at least when you pop your gadget it can move. But either way, this gadget just needs to be deleted. It's just terrible. Alright guys, it's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know whether you liked this format. I thought I'd just show off the gadgets in the training cave, because it's pretty hard to replicate a lot of the gameplay, especially with like RT's gadget, for example. There's like no use for it in open play. So hopefully you guys agree with a lot of these changes, but as I mentioned, there's got to be some huge changes pretty soon. Maybe not around the corner, because it sounded like in the podcast that they weren't going to do any changes to gadgets or star powers soon, but maybe they do it in this update. But I mean, at least this year surely they have to change a lot of them. But that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.